Hello, good morning. I've been making some videos lately talking about, retirement, moving to the Philippines and all of that, and talking about things like Social Security. One of the interesting things about Social Security, and one of the reasons that a lot of people end up pushing back their retirement and not going earlier than they might, is because of the way Social Security is calculated. Your retirement benefit, your Social Security benefit is based on your top 35 years of your work history. And sometimes, if people weren't making very much money back in their early career, early working years, it just makes sense for them excuse me while I navigate this intersection here with people walking around and stuff. It just makes sense for people to work a little later, In my own case, honestly, in my some of my younger years, I was working and stuff, but back in those early days, I wasn't really doing anything spectacular, making a ton of money. Especially when you take into account the fact how much time I spent more interested in playing my guitar than anything else, And there were some years where I was working for my brother and some other people, going out at night, doing, janitorial work, like scrubbing floors and stuff like that, and, stripping and waxing floors. It's not like I was making big money. And then just hanging out with my buddies, playing guitar, reading, working on my writing and stuff. So for me personally, even though there were other jobs interspersed through those years where I was making okay money, it's not like I was raking in tons of money at some really good job in my early working years after high school and so forth. So for me, the longer I wait, the more that clears off some of those years where I wasn't making that much money, if you, let's say up until you were 35, as an example, you weren't really making really great money, and you just weren't worried about stuff and screwing off, doing other things, and just not thinking down the road about all that stuff. You have to work until you were 70 years old to really have 35 good years of higher salaries and stuff for them to base your benefit on. So the longer you wait, it's not just you're getting a higher percentage because you waited until your full age. You're actually clearing off some of those early years where you weren't making that much money, which is really going to help your benefit a little bit more than it might in other cases. I mean, I've looked at mine before. Say if I were to retire early, once you get to a certain point where even if you stay working longer, it's not really going to make a huge amount of difference. But for certain people, if you in those early years just really didn't have that much money coming in, I think they adjust that. There's a factor by which they multiply that stuff to adjust for, like more like what today's dollars would be. So if you were making, $20,000, say back in 90 something or whatever, let's say, it's not like they're going to calculate that as $20,000. They're going to multiply that by a certain factor to make it relevant to today's dollars. But still, if you weren't really doing that much and didn't have that much money coming in, that makes a big difference, So that's one of the factors that people look at. It's easy to say, well, you're not getting any younger. You need to get out there and enjoy your life and not worry about all this fear you have of not having enough money someday if you live a long time. But for a lot of people, especially if they still have obligations going on. I've worked with people at the post office who were still working when they were like 75. I knew this one lady. I think she didn't actually end up retiring until she turned like 80 years old. But she was basically raising her grandchildren and stuff. You know, if you find yourself in a situation like that where you're trying to take care of your grandkids and everything, and you're the only one who's taking responsibility for anything and trying to give your family a good life, that can make a difference. You know, I know people, you know, it's like people say to me about, go ahead and retire, you know, it's not worth waiting until you're like 65 or something. But on the other hand, you know, there are things there that I need to think about too. Even if I were to die unexpectedly, I mean, the fear of dying, you know, I saw a video by some guy over in the Philippines, and he was talking about going back to his old hometown and some of the people that he grew up with and stuff, looking around to try and find them, old friends, and they were all dead and gone, you know, didn't even make it to 60. And so he basically went back home, you know, to Florida, where he was living for like 30 years, sold his condo, got some money out of that, and he took off for Southeast Asia, ended up in the Philippines. And he was like maybe, I don't know, 62 and a half or something when he did this. But he decided, that's it, I'm not waiting until I'm 65 or something. See, for me, I'm not going to be stressed about trying to retire early, say like 62, just because I'm worried I might die when I'm 64. You know, if that's what was going to happen, you know, the extra 2 years, you know, isn't really going to do that much for me. It's not, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, being able to go and do stuff and spend 10, 15, 20, 30 years. You know, I'm not going to stress about leaving at 62 because I might die at 64. If I'm going to die at 64, hell, I'd be better off just staying here and working. You know, I've got life insurance that's equal to like 5 times my annual salary. I have another policy, which I need to look up and get all the particulars and everything again, because I haven't looked at it for a long time. But it was like a $250,000 accidental death and dismemberment policy. And, you know, if you're like in the hospital with certain things, they pay us so much per day and stuff like that. That I've been paying like $31 a year on for like quite a long time. And, you know, so at least if I died, you know, I have that life insurance active through work, my wife's going to end up getting, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars off of that. If I died in an accident, I guess she'd get another $250,000, you know? So, I'm not going to like stress about quitting work just to have 2 years of not working. I'm thinking more long term than that. You know, if I die that young, there's nothing I can do about that. You know, anyways, I mean, that's not something worth stressing about. At the very least, I know my family will be taken care of. If she has that kind of money, go back to the Philippines and take care of our family and stuff and be set, you know. So I'm really, in my personal life, you know, I think about my obligations to my family. You know, I spent a lot of years living a selfish life, just doing my thing. And honestly, I wasn't really worried about what my life was going to be like when I retired, because I figured, especially if I had been on my own all this time and I was living by myself, and you know, if I, you know, still had a bunch of money in my thrift savings plan and stuff like that, whatever, you know, I could be retired. Maybe I go hang out with my family, my brother and sister. Who knows how long they're all going to still be around, you know. But I really didn't have any kind of long-term obligations to anyone that I was worried about. Now that I'm married and I'm responsible for other people, that's my primary concern. You know, for me, I just figure as long as I've taken care of those obligations, as long as they're going to be okay, then my life's work is finished. You know, at this point, things are pretty well set. You know, my family has a house. If something happens to me, they're going to have life insurance. be able to take care of things. And so I'm pretty much content. That's a strange thing for some people to wrap their heads around, probably. But, I've come to realize in life, one of the main lessons I've learned, people are always thinking, what have I accomplished? What have I done? What do people know me for? And, I came to a point where I realized that maybe my purpose here in life, if there's any purpose, I think it's just for us we're here to learn lessons. I'm not sure where we're going after this, but we're here to learn certain things and to prove certain things about ourselves. Fame, fortune, and all that kind of stuff is irrelevant. And sometimes, maybe the purpose of our being here wasn't anything to do at all with us. Maybe God's plan for us was to be here to be a blessing to someone else. I'm not constantly looking for, what's in it for me and what's God giving me. I think I found my purpose, and it wasn't all about me. And I'm content with my life and very, very happy with where I am. I don't know what I necessarily think 100% about the idea of soulmates and stuff like that, but I think all the strange things that happened to get me to exactly the place where I met my wife, I just think that's where I was meant to be. And I've done enough, the situation we're in, where basically things are set for her, no matter what happens to me at this point. So that gives me some contentment that I'm not super worried about things. Yeah, I want to have a nice long retirement and go and do a bunch of things and go live in the Philippines and enjoy my family, but no matter what happens to me personally, I know they're taken care of. So that's the big thing. All this other stuff, exactly when I retire and how many years I'm going to have after that, that's not such a huge issue for me like it is for some people. That's just not my primary thing that I'm stressing about in life. I have however long left I have, and God will take care of that. And if I need to work a few more years to make sure that everything's fine, make sure that everything is perfect in terms of having all my obligations met that I think I need to meet, and knowing I don't have anything to worry about, then that's what I'll do. It's not like I hate my life. And none of us knows how many years we got left. It's like that one guy, 62 and a half years old. All these other people were already dead. I've already walked away from so many situations in life where I can't believe I'm still alive anyways, So I count my blessings every day. But at this point in my life, I'm just not stressed, It's going to be what it's going to be, and I'm happy living today.